Hi investigators, Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy with episode 207 of Spy Curious. That is the Australian Licensed Private Investigator weekly news for what's been happening in the investigation industry throughout Australia. So the big news from this week, and I mentioned it last week, was down in New South Wales, the licensing authority have asked all licensed investigators who got their license between 2007 and 2023 to submit a copy of their qualification that they applied for their private investigator license with. As of today, you have 63 days left to comply. Now, a lot of people I know have already done it. There's no excuse for not doing it. The Commissioner of Licensing, the Commissioner of Police in New South Wales has made that request, and we comply with it. That's our role as investigators who are licensed in New South Wales. Oh boy, we've had a busy afternoon today. We've had, what have we had today? We've had over on our investigations uni just previously today, we've had week 3 of our security risk management and security risk assessment presentation. Today it was on risk analysis, and that went for about 50 minutes. And then we had Jenny, who was talking about skip tracing, and that was a very, very popular little presentation. So that's been happening today here at the Australian Security Academy. And that was prior to this program. Other news this week, there's been a big crackdown in Queensland by the Premier about dog bites. Now, public liability dog bites are one of the major investigations that general insurers do all around Australia. It doesn't matter what state you live in, Tasmania, Victoria, Queensland, New South Wales, Western Australia, NT, that sort of thing. If the premises has home and contents insurance, and if the owner of the dog bites someone, the owner of the dog is liable for the compensation for that person. So if it bites a 3-year-old child and causes an injury to their face and it's a girl, they're going to want plastic surgery on that scar because they're not going to have that. So public liability, home and contents covers that sort of thing. And when you become a licensed private investigator, you're going to find yourself under general insurance doing lots of investigations in regard to that. It is the #1 investigation for general insurance in the United States. And when you study at the Australian Security Academy and get your qualification from the Australian Security Academy, one of the things you actually learn is how to handle a public liability dog bite. So other news this week around Australia, down in Victoria, a man has got to pay back $144,000 after a false work injury claim. So he was a truck driver who called an ambulance as he drove home from the V8 Supercars event back in 2015, I think it was. And he was not at work, he was driving home and he injured his back. He got sciatica or something like that. He called an ambulance twice and they went and sorted him out. Then he claimed, Worksafe, that he injured his back at work the next day. And he did it climbing out of the cabin of his truck. Now, when you get a claim of this sort of magnitude, it's next level investigations when you're doing the pending or statutory claim. You want to know exactly how that accident happened. Here they've data matched it. Now, Worksafe have gone back through the old records with the TAC and Ambulance Victoria, and they've data matched 2 ambulances going to his residence on the day of the accident before he went to work and claimed that he'd hurt himself at work. This isn't unusual. They do this with suppliers to Worksafe in Victoria. So they check what private investigators say they did. Private investigators in Victoria have to keep a written record in a separate book of their investigations with the day, date and time, what the investigation was, who it was for, that sort of thing. So Worksafe can match it with their invoices and make sure they weren't ghosting if it's surveillance or doubling up if it was factual investigations. They check that sort of thing. It's an integrity check that we welcome as licensed private investigators because we don't want the crooks in the industry who are doing a something dodgy, like accessing police databases or, that sort of thing, getting ahead of the people that are honest. So integrity checks are done on investigators, they're done on claimants, they're also done on other suppliers like physiotherapists, that sort of thing. There was a case back a few years ago, Worksafe matched the invoices to one of their psychiatrists who, according to his passport, was overseas for 3 months and didn't see any of the people ever in person before the internet who were through the Worksafe scheme that he was treating. So he was putting in false invoices. So this is what's happened down at Worksafe this week. When you have those kind of truck accidents, like, it's next level, people. It's precisely how did you climb out of the truck? What was the surface you were lighted onto? Did you slip on the last step? Tell me the mechanism of how you hurt your back between the ladder of climbing out of the cabin and touching the ground. What did you twist? How did it go? What did you do? Did anyone else see it? You're going to have some really hard questions, because in these cases, it might be very early in the morning, it might be dark, there might be no CCTV, no witnesses, the person's working by themselves. And if the question's good enough and you confirm the date and the time, and match that to the access control of the truck area where they go in and out through that access control gate that's got the boom that goes up and down, and the data matches in the computer what registered truck or what number went in and out at that time. You can match all this stuff up with the person's account of what happened. But that wasn't at all possible. They were soft in the initial statutory claim process, and he got away with $144,000 worth of payments for several years. So anyway, he's got to pay that back now. So he's got himself into a bit of trouble. Criminal syndicates are using cash vouchers and gifts to steal NDIS funds. This is no news to anybody. This came out this week that there's a big crackdown at the NDIS. They've received 1,700 tip-offs about people ripping it off. There are $300 million of payments under review, and the task force has several investigations that are concurrent at the moment. So NDIS has had some great failures in handing out money to criminal gangs and criminal organisations and people that don't deserve it, who are milking the system. So the previous government did not monitor it, and now the current Prime Minister is saying we want it accounted for and we're going to check it. And he's got a task force of fraud detection capability with a dozen different government agencies working together to detect and prevent fraud against NDIS participants. Now, again, just like Worksafe, they're going to do data matching, and they're going to match those names and those addresses and those people with other services and stuff like that to identify who's doing it. Now, last week in this program, we identified a young lady that was sharing data from Services New South Wales to gangsters so they could go and do kidnapping. Now, again, NDIS is going to have people from gangs that have infiltrated that organisation, and they've shared that data and how to do it, that sort of thing, in regard to that federal government service. Now, none of us are happy about that. We do not like that. We're glad that NDIS is cracking down on it. That's really important. So we have some jobs this week, and I've been pretty slack with getting my jobs up there. I'm going to have to upload them now. Oh boy, been a busy day. So if you go to our Australian Security Academy Facebook page, this is the page coming up. This is where you're going to find Australia's leading repository of up-to-date, current and past investigation, government investigation and corporate investigation roles for licensed private investigators, government investigators and corporate investigators. To join that Facebook page, you have to answer 2 questions. Are you an Australian resident? Are you looking for work as an investigator in Australia? And if you answer yes to both those questions, I'll give you access to that page. So some of the jobs that are available this week that you can see there, the tax office they're looking for people to help them fight crime. So jump over to the Australian Private Investigator jobs page, see what the ATO want. You just click on it and it will be there. There it is. Sorry, better shot there. So you can uncover your big opportunity with the NDIS. Now, this is a great job. It's available from ISG down in New South Wales. Now, they're after private investigators down there, and ISG want private investigators with 2 years' experience, and so does everybody else. Now, private investigators with 2 years' experience down in New South Wales currently are at a premium. They're getting paid very well. They're earning a good income. There's no unemployed licensed private investigators conducting factual investigations in New South Wales. They are really busy people. So don't be put off by the 2 years requirement. They can ask that, and everybody had to start somewhere. So be brave and go and apply for the job at ISG. Now, they want this and they want that, and they want certificate for in government investigations if you've got it, plus a licence in New South Wales, which is essential. They can't employ you if you haven't got a licence. But there's one thing down the bottom there that they've asked, and it's of really great interest: knowledge of Polonius case management systems. Now, in your Australian Security Academy Private Investigator course, we harp on about case management systems frequently and about client service level agreements and all that sort of thing. So this one at ISG, they've asked for basically for Polonius and knowledge of that system. So let's see if we can find Polonius. We'll do a bit of a search and see if we can find Polonius and what they're all about. If you get on YouTube, you can find this, how Polonius actually do their face-to-face interviews online. Now, we had an inquiry last week about desktop investigations, and investigation agencies such as SureFact, they use Polonius. So they're using Polonius when they do a remote witness statement or employer statement on the internet. So here's Polonius's guide as to how they do that.
Also known as Splashlight. This is video interviewing software that allows you to send interview appointments directly from Polonius and upload back into Polonius automatically after the interview's finished. So it's very easy to use. So you can see here the Polonius case view that you're used to, and with this integration we've created 2 buttons, Create SL Interview here and Splashlight there. So the first one we're going to use is this one, and this is to create the interview appointment. And so when we open this up and go in here for the appointment info, you can see that if we want to, we can schedule an appointment there and put in the details and send a calendar invitation to the subject for when the interview is going to start. But for the sake of this demo, we're also going to use Start Call Now, which you can also do to start a call immediately. So what I'll do is just save that, and that will send the details to the interviewee. In this case, we're going to interview Clancy Claimant. I will have my boss Alistair standing in for Clancy. So now to speak to him, we're going to just go across here and click on Splashlight to log in there. And so that sends across all of your login details. So all we have to do is agree to the terms and conditions and then log in. And then when we get in, we can see that we've got the case information has come across into Splashlight here. We've got a list of the people on the call, and so we're going to grab Clancy because we've started the call immediately. And so we'll just wait for Clancy to join. Hi Alistair, how's it going?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Not too bad. So did you want to tell us what it was like connecting?
Yeah, absolutely. So you get just the text message? You click on the text message, it comes up with a terms sheet. You can agree to that, have a look at it. You click on the link to continue with the interview. It then opens up on your phone, so there's no software to download or anything, and it starts recording straight away.
Fantastic. Sounds easy. So you're on the phone now then?
Absolutely, absolutely. The only other thing, they'd ask for access to your video and your audio, and that's all there is to it.
Okay, beautiful. Well, thanks very much. I'll let you go and I'll talk to you later.
Okay, thanks,
All
mate.
right.
See you.
Cheers. Bye-bye. I'll just hang this up. And so what that's going to do now is it's going to automatically upload that video to Polonius. So I'll just switch back to Polonius. And so we're going to refresh the case and just go across to the action history. And so you can see there that we've just uploaded the video.
Yeah, good, good. How are you?
Not too bad. So did you want to tell us? And so the video is now saved to Polonius without any further clicks from...
So that's what they want at ISG, you to be able to use that system. Now, most 5-year-old children could use that today. So it's really easy. Polonius have been around forever. Alistair, the person in charge, who was Clancy the cleaner in that scenario, is one of the nicest suppliers in the investigation industry. Really lovely bloke. So that's Polonius. Now, you can Google them and it'll show you Polonius for private investigation firms. It tells you all about what they do. They're always upgrading it. They're always improving it. Everything you need to know about Polonius investigative case management software is there. And this is the really interesting part. It has the capacity to record all the investigators that work for the organisation that subscribe to Polonius. So, for example, Surefact or ISG, it tells you their licence details that are current, when it's due to expire, when it was submitted, and anything that is expired. It all goes into the system. Now, clients can see that and they can check that you are licensed. Clients can follow the progress of your investigation in here. That's what it's all about. So Allianz, Suncorp, QBE can jump in there and look at your public liability dog bite case and see how you've progressed over the 14 days to do it. They can see that you've done an interview with the owner of the house, the interview with the owner of the dog, the trainer of the dog, and the local council. So that will all be there in Polonius's case management system. So Polonius has the capacity to do all that. It's pretty big, serious stuff. They can follow what you've been doing in the progress of your investigation. And I would say that what they want over at SLED, where you get your qualification and you have to show SLED New South Wales for licensing continuance and comply with the Chief Commissioner's directive, Polonius would have in there the capacity to have recorded your qualification from back when you got your license. So when I told people last week how to get your qualification for free, this is where the employer who has that on record would get it from. Now, some people might use a different one like Comtrack, which is a different case management system. Nothing wrong with that. They've probably got their own way of doing it. There might be another one, Case Management Lite for cheap investigation firms. They might not have that capacity, but the investigation agency may keep a record of the qualification that you gave them when you gave them their license. Notice that ISG wanted a certificate for in government investigation as well as a licence. So I'd say they'd have the record going back 3 years ago when you first applied there with your licence and your Certificate 3 in investigative services. So that's a great use that's over and above everything else for a case management system. So really good work. Polonius, you get some balloons for that. Great work. You're really serving the investigation industry well with what you do. So I keep referring back to it, but SLED New South Wales, seeking cooperation of all licensed private investigators there, and their remit, they're responsible for ensure a safe and secure New South Wales with the help of a competent, ethical and professional security industry. Now, investigators are in that. And on their Facebook page last week, SLED told everybody who's a licensed private investigator to email them a copy of the qualification they got for licensing, along with their license number, date of birth and full name. It's not hard. It's no big deal. They're not asking you to expensively upgrade to the new qualification yet. That'll come later. But that's what they've done last week. I've sent mine in. I know 4 or 5 other people that have sent theirs in and are in the process of doing it. So it's not hard to comply with that. So that's what's happening. Other news this week that's happening around the place. Sydney Trains and New South Wales Trains have tendered out the provision of security services. So that tender is now available through New South Wales Transport. So you can download the tender specs from their tender site. There's links all over it. Just get on New South Wales Transport, and it's a request for tender. So they're asking you to submit a fully costed tender for the amount of time that tender will go for. So that's an interesting one that's happening in New South Wales at the moment. Great opportunity if you're in security as well as investigations. This is an investigator. You won't make it with that. You'd need to have the capacity to have security guards as well in relation to that. So that's an important one to keep in mind. That's a tender that's come up. These come up regularly for investigations as well as for security. So something to keep your eye on. Just got to check I'm doing everything because I might not ever have everything up. Here we go. Safe Work New South Wales Safe Work New South Wales have had a prosecution recently where a person fell through the stair void of a residential construction site in February 2023 and was injured, and Safe Work have prosecuted that. And everything about that, what you've got to have at work sites with the principal contractor is there. I think I told you about this one last week, but it's really important that you understand that that's out there and it's available. This is something I found really weird that came up just yesterday in Victoria, and it's to do with IBAC and Operation Daintree. Now, IBAC have gone on YouTube and they've put in an explanation about dodgy training by a union and $1 million worth of funding in relation to it.
When a government contracts with a supplier, it's vital that the choice of supplier is made in the public interest. There's a range of legal and procedural safeguards to ensure that this occurs. Those safeguards are especially important if the potential supplier has close links to a party in government. IBAC's Operation Daintree report examines a case in which some of these safeguards were breached or overridden. It highlights concerns about the influence of ministerial advisors in the awarding of the contract and makes a series of recommendations to reduce the risk of such conduct recurring. In 2018, the government had identified a need for frontline health workers to be trained to manage a growing problem of violence and aggression towards them. Around this time, the Health Workers Union approached the government with a proposal to provide that training through an organisation called the Health Education Foundation, or HEF, which the union had recently established. In October that year, the then Department of Health and Human Services signed a $1.2 million contract with HEF to provide the training. The department did so without going through a competitive procurement process. Shortly afterwards, IBAC received a complaint alleging corrupt conduct in the awarding of that contract. In particular, it was alleged that ministerial advisors had pressured the department to award the contract to HEF despite relevant staff in the department having serious concerns that HEF did not have the experience or capability to deliver the training. IBAC found that the evidence did not establish corrupt conduct as defined in Victorian law. Under Victorian law, conduct is corrupt only if it constitutes a criminal offence. However, our investigation did substantiate the factual allegations that had been made. Through its connection with the union, HEF was able to gain privileged access to ministerial advisors. Ministerial advisors improperly intervened in the department's procurement processes. Senior executives within the department disregarded the concerns of their staff, failed to provide frank advice to the minister, and allowed their perceptions of the minister's preferences to affect the decision to award the contract to HEF. HEF failed to provide adequate training under the contract. When the department indicated its concerns about this, the union sought support from the Premier's private office. An advisor in the Premier's office then engaged with the Minister for Health's office, who in turn improperly interfered with the department's management of the contract with HEF. This investigation highlights the risks that can arise when a government is contracting with an organisation that has connections with the governing party. Our report also highlights issues with the scope of the authority of ministerial advisors and accountability for them, and the risks arising from failures of senior public sector officials to give frank and potentially unwelcome advice to their minister. The report makes 17 recommendations on matters including lobbying by unions and employer organisations, the obligations of ministerial staff and accountability for them, and the establishment of a Parliamentary Integrity Commissioner to deal with conduct which falls short of criminal conduct. A detailed list of the recommendations can be seen on our website. IBAC has asked the Victorian Government to report to Parliament on the actions taken in response to these recommendations by the 31st of October 2023, with a further report on those actions due by the 30th of June 2024. We will monitor the implementation of these recommendations and will ensure that ministers, ministerial advisors and senior public sector employees are aware of the corruption risks identified in our investigation. I encourage you to visit our website to read the report and the recommendations in full.
I don't know. He doesn't mention where the money went. He doesn't mention who got it. There was vague and ambiguous advisors and consultants and influential people. That's left me wondering a heck of a lot. Maybe I'm just a cynical investigator. Where'd the money go? Did they get the money back? Well, they're telling the story. Okay, we will keep going. People with New South Wales, you have 63 days left to comply with SLED's requirement to have your copy of your qualification for licensing in. So get onto that. Don't leave it till the last minute, because you may have your license revoked if you leave it to the last minute. So that's really important. We've been reminding you, we've been telling you about that. Don't miss out. It's a directive from the Chief Commissioner of New South Wales, Karen Webb. There she is. Her directive is supply a copy of your qualification between 2007 and 2023 with your license number and your full name in an email to SLED. It's really easy. Now, Karen's got domestic violence to deal with. She's got terrorism to deal with. She's got hackers and pedophiles to deal with. She's got criminals and kidnappers to deal with. She wants a cooperative security industry, and we're investigators. There's only 1,619 of us in New South Wales. She's not asking for much to comply with her competent, ethical and professional security industry down in New South Wales. You've heard it on episode 207 of Spy Curious. The AIPI haven't mentioned anything about this to their 99 New South Wales members. They've let them down. They haven't told them about this or reminded them how many days they've got left. The AISP haven't, but they don't have to. The AISP are a Victorian-based organisation. Thanks, Tony. Happy birthday earlier in the week, mate. Really kind of you. Yeah, so look, the IBAC thing does leave a lot of just wondering what happened. That's really, really weird. If you missed it, today we had Jenny teaching at Investigations Uni about skip tracing, and the people that watched it, they absolutely loved it, and they asked if Jenny could come back next week because she ran out of time. So they've asked for Jenny to come back, and in Investigations Uni next week, Jenny will be delivering on skip tracing, the second part of her presentation on that. She'll be back later on in the year about surveillance too. Jenny's one of the more experienced investigators, licensed investigators in New South Wales. She's been doing it now for 10 years. We also have Alex coming next week. He's going to be talking about serving documents, so serving process. So we've got locate subjects with Jenny on Investigations Uni next week, and Alex with serve process. So serving people with a summons, how to do it, what it's all involved, that'll be on Investigations Uni next week. Now, Investigations Uni is absolutely free for Australian Security Academy students. You don't have to pay for it, you get free access to it, and you can do CPD points. Now, why do we do Investigations Uni? It's really easy to look good as a teacher of investigations at a conference for an hour once every 5 years and be the expert in your field. That's intensity. Really good. You teach 500 people in a one-off event something that's important about first aid or some new system. That's great. It's gone, it's forgotten, it's all over. There's no recognition for it. What we do at Investigations Uni, every Friday we deliver something of value to investigators in Australia. And those investigators are Australian Security Academy graduate students. If you're not a graduate student of the Australian Security Academy, tell your RTO to provide this for you for free. No, they won't. They just want to sell you garbage, extra stuff to read. That's pointless. This is all about investigators telling our students what they do in their field, and it's valuable, and you can get CPD points for it. So keep an eye on it, people. If you're not up to date with it, the Investigations Uni next week will be week 8, episode 32, I believe. Very hard to keep up with, but we've got that to look forward to next week. SureFact are looking for licensed private investigators in New South Wales and in Victoria. So if you're a factual investigator, get in touch with Pat Henderson. You'll see him over on our Australian Private Investigator, Corporate and Government Investigator jobs page. He'll be there, and all his contacts are there, and just do a search for SureFact and it will come up. Get in touch with Pat, and Paul York's there as well. He'd like to speak to you as well. So great opportunity for investigators at SureFact. Once again, they're asking for 2 years experience. Well, they can ask that. Everybody in New South Wales with 2 years experience is flat out and working, and they're still going to accept an application from an emerging investigator like yourself. They're not going to say no, because if they say no to you, you're going to go and work for their competition. So they don't want that. They want you working for them. So that's really important. So get in touch with Pat or Paul over on our investigators job page for SureFact. SureFact are suppliers to Worksafe in Victoria, Worksafe in New South Wales, and they have a number of other important contracts with corporations, large corporations all around Australia. We're going to have Pat Henderson presenting in Investigations Uni in a couple of weeks' time. He's done that for Spy Curious. We're really looking forward to that. They do a great job. So people, get on that Facebook page, look at the jobs, check those out. If you're a New South Wales licensed private investigator, keep this in mind. 63 days from today to comply with SLED's licensing requirements. All you have to do, locate the certificate 3 you use to apply for your license, scan it, and then email it to SLED with your full name and your license number. That's all you have to do. You don't have to put in poor excuses. You don't have to put in a lengthy explanation. You don't even have to put, dear sir, dear madam, I hope you're well. Just send what they want and comply with it, and then your licence will not be revoked. 1,618 other investigators are. No reason why you can't do that as well. It costs nothing. So that's really important. Don't forget to do it. You get kept up and informed on these sort of developments when you're at the Australian Security Academy. The Victorian Police Licensing Regulation Division today have issued a newsletter to give the catch-up times in relation to applications for licensing, and that even in that newsletter put in why there are delays and the most common reason for delays. So if you have an application in with the LRD and it's been delayed, read that newsletter. It's in your email today. SLED, New South Wales, are building their email base for private investigators from what they've asked you to do. Send in a copy of your qualification with your licence number and your full name, right? And then they'll keep you informed of developments there as well. It's a transition period for SLED, right? They've gone from CAPI to SLED. It's a transition period. I've just transitioned 5 nationally recognised qualifications into brand new qualifications. It's taken Pat and I 2 years to do it. Right, so SLED, with their limited resources, limited budget and limited personnel, are going to be doing a really good job to compile that database as the Chief Commissioner wants and get it right and keep the people that want to remain licensed. If you don't want to remain licensed as a PI in New South Wales, you don't have to do it. You might be retiring. Whatever reason you might have, that's up to you, so that's fine. Thanks, people. Thanks for watching. You've been watching episode 207 of Spy Curious. We've covered job vacancies. We've covered tenders. We've covered Polonius, which was great to see Polonius today. You now know how many licensed investigators there are in Australia. If you can go back and look at that on that slide that I put up before, you can see how many licensed private investigators there are in your state. This is as of August 1st last year. So there's only 5,700 investigators in Australia. Become a licensed private investigator, get working and earn some money. But you'll only do that if you do the right course at the Australian Security Academy. Doing a course from anywhere else, well, nobody's interested in employing you. They just want to see an Australian Security Certificate 3 in Investigative Services and know that you're licensed. They'll have confidence in you. They appear on this program. I can send you to them to get work. If you are studying with any other RTO, please do not contact me. Contact your own RTO and tell them to get you work, right? That's their problem, not mine. So get in touch with them. And I'm
작전 종료. 전원 복귀할 것.
Yes, in 2 hours' time, 2.5 hours' time, at 5 o'clock, it's your fact. They'll be saying, mission complete for this week, all units return to our base. And they'll be saying that at MJM, at M&A Investigations. No, they won't. But that's what the the movie version of it says for the Korean movie Cold Eyes. Really good movie you should watch. It's good fun. So don't forget the SLED thing. See you next week, people. See you on Investigations Uni. Man, has that got some traction. We have got some people doing CPD points in there that I never, ever thought would ever happen. Other people try and sell you bundles of pages of reading. We give away CPD and extra learning. It costs nothing. You don't have to pay for it. It's there. You show an employer exactly what you've done. Suncorp, Metway do it. They have an internal training program that's very similar to ours. Allianz do it, and they expect it, and they expected it to be monitored and done by suppliers who do general insurance with Allianz. So do Suncorp, Metway. They want to know about that. We provide it free. There's no extra bundle to buy at the Australian Security Academy that's expensive and just a lot of cut and pasted reading. Not here. You get it for free, and what we give away for free is worth more than what you have to pay for at the other places. See you next week, people. I'm Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy. Thanks for being an Australian Security Academy student. We really appreciate it. It's a really big deal when you get your qualification from the Australian Security Academy.